Hey, everybody. We are back. It's another Podcast Tuesday, and this is your favorite host, Naja Hall, with your favorite podcast, I Know I'm Crazy, with Naja Hall. And today we are talking all things being divorced and uncaged. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. So, we think about it, y'all. You guys know I wrote a whole book, journal, workbook. I did the whole thing because we want to talk about our experiences. And we get a lot of authors on this podcast that also want to promote their products, which I totally do not mind, especially if it's a product that I've supported and I've read or I've used and I believe in, because y'all know I ain't going to bring you any BS. But when Courtney and I started talking, I follow her on social media. A lot of you probably do too. When we started talking about the whole divorce thing, that's a big part of why I do what I do. And y'all know why I do what I do. So I'm looking for experts that have all sorts of experiences, not just step parents, but we've had legal experts on here. We've had adult stepchildren on here. And today, and we've also had a couple of high conflict bio parents on here too. Y'all remember April, right? We're talking to Courtney Evans, and Courtney is the author of Uncaged, a raw, poignant, brutally honest, no BS mix of memoir, self-help, and practical guide for anybody who's trying to step into their authenticity, reframe their mindset, and embrace emotional healing. Courtney takes the reader through a candid recounting of her multifaceted experiences with divorce and her family's traumatic journey with a corrupt family court system. By bearing her soul on paper, Courtney created a must-read book for anyone searching for forgiveness, freedom, and their happily ever after. Courtney, welcome to I Know I'm Crazy with Naja Hall. How are you?
I am fantastic and so excited to be here.
Yes. So, Courtney, before I start jugging you with a million questions about the book and your experiences, because we kind of all want to know the tea, just tell us a little bit about yourself so that we can get to know the Courtney behind the Uncaged.
Yes. Okay. So I'm Courtney. I'm also Dr. Courtney. So I kind of have two different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
I am
and
a
you
wife.
know what? Let me fix myself. I like to refer to my PhD, doctor friends, people on here that like as Dr. Courtney. So, Doctor, you are Dr. Courtney from now on. Guys, please forgive me. Courtney, forgive me for not addressing you by your title, because I feel like maybe that's hard to earn. So we're going to put those letters in front of her name. Dr. Courtney, forgive me.
Thank you. No forgiveness necessary. Thank you. I do not actually go by that as much as I should, considering it was incredibly difficult.
Girl, I would get it tattooed on my arm. Are you crazy?
I used to have it on my license plate. Does that count? I used to do that. But I am a mom. I am a second wife. I am a divorcee. Let's see. I'm a doodle dog owner. I love the beach. So that is, yes. And he actually made an appearance on the back of the book. I talk about Dexter on the back of the book. I think the kids were probably a little jealous because I talked about the dog.
But they're like, hey, what about us? Like,
yeah. Like, wait, he's the favorite. He's the passport child. Yes, he is. So I am also a stepmom, and I do have a doctorate degree. So I was a nurse for 2.5 decades before I transitioned into owning a business, an entrepreneur, a divorce recovery coach. So I've worn many
2.5 decades. So you must have become a nurse when you were like 5. In case y'all are not watching this, if y'all are not watching this, which I encourage you to come to the YouTube version too, Courtney, you got to tell us like what your secrets are. I guess being uncaged is one of them. Everybody knows my secret is being unbothered. So uncaged, also, we got to add that to our list, guys. We are unbothered and we are uncaged. Come on, Dr. Courtney. All right.
I love it.
So what did you get your doctorate in?
Nursing. It's a nurse executive. It's a doctor of nursing practice.
Nice. Wonderful. I love an educated woman. And I do hear a bit of a Southern twang in your voice.
Yes.
Is that what I hear? Where is that from?
You do. North Carolina is raised and roots. I'll put it that way. So
nice.
If I go down there and visit family, you'll hear it even more. Or if I get mad, then it comes out.
So I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and I could immediately pick up on your Southern twang. I live here in New York now, so I've learned to hide the Southern accent. But I could, when I'm speaking to another Southern person, another country girl, I'm like, girl, go behind there, over there to the
Oh,
right and to
yes.
the left. So, anywho, so let's just get right into it because you are a
Absolutely.
wife, you're a mom, you're a stepmom, you're a second marriage. I do like to say last marriage because there ain't no after us. I do like to say last. Um,
Stealing that. I love that.
hey, people are like, oh, she's a second wife. I said, no, no, honey, I'm the last. Okay.
Yep.
The
Stealing
first
that.
is
I'm going to
cute.
like write that down. I
The
love it.
first is cute, but the last, that's the one we're going to take it on home with. So let's talk about the roles, right? And, before we get into the devastation of the family court system, why do this? Why make this your mission to coach people through divorce recovery?
Because it's needed. There's a change that needs to happen. And I obviously recognized that through going through it. Beforehand, I was very naive. I thought the justice system was about, justice. I thought court officials took an oath. Like, I thought all of these really wild thoughts that a lot of people have until they go through it. And then going through it, it was like, this needs to change because the trauma that comes from it needs to be addressed. And while I have people I network with and colleagues that are tied to policy change and things like that, which is wholeheartedly worthy causes, like I am in full support. Those are things, that's a slow grind. That's going to take a long time to get things changed. And I finally just said to myself, I want to get to people before they get to family court. I want to get to them the moment they start thinking about divorce. Are you sure this is the road you want to take? And if it is, let's take the right path. Let's take the healing path, not the traumatic path.
What does a healing path look like? Because we all know what the traumatic, especially if you listen to this podcast or follow me, we know what does the healing path look like exactly?
Messy. Messy and not a straight line. I will definitely say that. It is a path of forgiveness. It is something that I wish, and this is where a lot of this came from. So I can't say that when I first started the business that I had this perfected, and I won't say that I have it perfected now. I don't. But I wish that I would have known the things I know now then. And everybody, hindsight's 2020, everybody thinks that.
We're all
But
Monday morning quarterbacks. Yep.
absolutely, absolutely. But I want to be able to share what I learned with other people so they don't have to take the messier path, the traumatic, corruption filled path. But
Mm.
really and truthfully, it starts with forgiveness. That is the crux of where the journey has to start if you don't want it to be traumatic.
You got to kind of take it back a couple steps because, when we're talking about the mere mention of, hey, so we need to separate our families, separate our assets. I don't like you that much anymore to be married to you forever. There's a lot of, and I don't want to say hatred because hate is such a strong word, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of ugly, nasty feelings. There could be betrayal in there. There's a lot of contempt in there. Where does forgiveness factor into these very raw, ugly feelings? How can the two coexist?
Yes. I am a firm believer. Firm believer. Two things can be true at one time. Because everything in life is about compare and contrast. Everything is. So if you look at it that way, you can be angry, you can have the really strong hate feelings, the dislike feelings, the betrayal feelings, the grief, but you can also have the forgiveness because what you need to realize is the forgiveness is not for them, it's not about them. It's about you. And if you start to replace they did this, they betrayed me, they hurt me, they, and you replace those statements with I. How did I get here? What role did I play? What do I want my life to look like moving forward? And everybody always says this. They're like, as soon as I'm like, forgive, they're like, I'm not forgiving that guy or I'm not forgiving that woman. That could never happen. I caution people to just kind of stop and sit with it for just a minute while they remind themselves that is not allowing the other person to escape culpability. That's not what forgiveness is about. They may still have very much did something wrong, something bad, betrayed you, left, walked out, took money, whatever. Fill in your blank as you're listening. You have your own blanks, fill them in. It's not about them escaping that culpability. It's not that they're in the right. They're not. But if you stay stuck on that and don't move into that forgiveness phase, you will never heal.
You know what, I hear a lot of people say that are in that cycle of they 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 know they need to forgive, but they just can't. And I've heard this from so many people that are stuck in the cycle. They're like, if I don't hold them accountable for what they did to me, if I do forgive them, I feel like I'll be letting go, like you said, of all the responsibility that they had to me. And I feel like I'll be making room for them to do it again. And that's just not true, right? That's just not absolutely true. That's false. So you're saying
Absolutely.
forgiveness is, repeat that statement again, because I want some of y'all to write this down. Pull out your pads and write this one down.
Forgiveness is not about them, it's about you.
And we've heard that in so many different ways, so many times, but I don't think we can hear that enough. It's not about them, it's about you. Because my thing, Dr. Courtney, is when you don't forgive, and I know a lot of bitter Bettys out there, bitty Bettinas, bitty Benjamins, whatever, um, that have all these wrinkles and cellulite. And I could just say, oh, girl, you need to let some stuff go. You need to be uncaged and unbothered and start
Absolutely.
to forgive. So we talk about, I kind of feel like in your situation, just going through the book, you survived a divorce because family court almost took y'all out. It
Yes.
almost flatlined everybody. Talk about the family court process. Like, what was your experience? What was it? What happened, Dr. Courtney?
Oh, everybody get ready, buckle up, sit down, get your tissues, get your tea, whatever it is you
Popcorn.
want. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I've got to kind of take this a little ways back to make it make sense. But and it sounds dramatic, but to be quite frank with you, to sum it up, it was walking through hell. It was literally walking through hell. Um, but my own family court experience with my divorce was a total contrast to what I went through with my lasting husband, my now husband. My my divorce, we used the same attorney. We signed the paperwork. We had 50-50 from day one. Don't get me wrong, we don't get along. We got a divorce for a reason. If you want the reasons, it's in the book. You can read all about them. But
I know the
there are
reasons,
reasons.
y'all. I'm not gonna
There
tell
are
y'all
reasons.
those. Uh-huh.
Some of them are great, some of them aren't, but it wasn't. We decided early on, both of us, that we were going to try to mitigate any impacts to our child.
Yeah.
And even though we fallen on our face with our co-parenting journey more times than I can count in almost 10 years, we've done our best. So when I saw it go that way, and I knew that 50-50 was possible, I knew that you could do it. Even if you have hatred, you have betrayal, you have X, Y, and Z, I knew you could do it. Because if I could do it and he could do it, most people can. I won't say everybody, because I know there are other circumstances out there. But so then when I met my now husband and started going through that process with him, the custody part, the family court part, it
It's
blew out my nervous
nasty.
system.
Yeah.
It
It's
just blew it
nasty.
out.
Yeah.
It was. Things were happening that you could not have told me existed, and I would have believed you had I have not gone through it. I just wouldn't. I'd be like, you're lying. You're making up. You're talking about a Lifetime movie. This isn't real.
Dr.
Yeah.
Courtney, I literally was gonna say it's like a bad Sunday morning, Saturday morning Lifetime movie, and you're just like, this is crap. This doesn't happen. I've said this so many times on, and you guys can vouch for me. I've said this so many times. It's like watching a movie and you just don't understand that these types of human beings exist until they
Yes.
smack you in the face and you have to interact with them. So
Yes.
can you speak to some more detail? Because so you're watching your husband, or you
Yes.
guys were, you were watching his battle, his journey with trying to secure his role in his children's life from a previous relationship.
Yes.
Tell me this. What was the most egregious thing that you saw? Let's just start. Let's go. Let's start heavy. Let's start hard. What's the thing
Okay.
that made you say, yeah, let's go there?
I can start heavy, and here I'm going to tell you why I can start heavy. This is in the book, so you're going to read more about it. But I had somebody not that long ago tell me that they were going to expose all my skeletons. And I was like, go ahead, do your worst, because this book, I dance with my skeletons. I know them by name. They sit with me frequently. So I turned around and I said, that's cool. You can go ahead and do that because I'm fixing to unearth the whole damn graveyard. So go ahead. Do your
Do
worst.
it.
I don't care. So I start big. It's go big or go home.
It's
So
gonna be
I,
so. Let me, okay, so that hold on. I'm curious now because this was like an anonymous message, or is this like a person in particular? And we're not gonna give them a name because
yeah, it
this
was a
this
person in particular that knows
okay.
me.
They
Yeah.
don't know you. They don't know you. They know the
Mm-mm.
fictitious image of you that they've come up with in their head. They know the version of
Yeah.
you that they have to make up so that they can exist and
They
not
know
do
the
too much to
caged
the.
version of Courtney. That's the one that they
Ooh.
know.
So expose away, babes. Expose away.
Yeah.
Expose away. Do
So
it. So let's go big.
honestly, you want to know the worst part? The absolute worst part was the false accusations. That was the worst part.
Oh. What were the false accusations?
That my husband was having an inappropriate relationship with someone close to them.
Yeah, that's common.
Yeah.
And how do you prove that the accusation was false?
Oh, you better hope you have a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of support. So,
Because those billable
$100,000.
hours, those
Yeah.
billable hours from those attorneys add up. Is that how much you guys spent? About six figures?
Yes. Yep. Yep. It was over six figures, over 6 years. And 6 binders worth of evidence. I had PowerPoints blown up into timeline posters to take to court. But all I can say is if you get strapped into the ride of family court coupled with criminal court because of any kind of accusation, I don't care what it is, you're in it for the long haul. Like, don't think that just because you have all the evidence, all the binders, all the things, that it's just people are going to go, oh, okay, it was a lie. It's done now. They're not. They are absolutely not going to do that. They don't. I have learned through this process that the court system does not care what's true and what's not. They care what makes them the most amount of money.
I think when we look at all systems, we realize there's just a bunch of dudes that make up this group and they build upon one another. That's systems are just people
Yeah.
that are doing the same thing and have similar goals, I guess. When I think of $100,000 though, Courtney, I think of all the things that we could have done with like you could have got the best facelift in the world from the best Beverly Hills plastic surgeon. You could have put down on a beautiful home in Manhattan. You could have kept it in your damn bank account. You could have thrown it in the sky and made it rain. Like it's your money, but you had to spend it on something like that.
Yes.
What would have happened if you didn't have access to that type of cash?
He probably would have spent 15 years in prison.
How does a relationship heal after such an egregious false accusation?
Oh, a lot of work. A whole lot of work. That's one thing about this entire process, whether it's divorce, co-parenting, step parenting, false accusations, any of that stuff. It's work. It's being intentional with the process. It started, and people are gonna be like, oh my gosh, here she goes again. But it starts with forgiveness. It really does. And that's where it had to start separately for us and together for us.
Yeah.
Was separately we had to forgive who we needed to forgive that was involved in the situation, and then together we had to forgive everything that happened.
I don't know because like how do you define forgiveness? In the book, how are we defining forgiveness? Because I think of something so egregious as a false accusation that almost costs you your life. It costs you life savings.
Yeah.
It costs you your mental health, for God's sakes. So how in the heck are you defining forgiveness, and how do you get to that point?
Forgiveness is, for me, and I have to give credit where credit is due. This actual statement came from my husband. It did not come from me, and I do say that in there. Forgiveness is looking at someone like they are somebody you used to know. It is not someone that you hate. It is not someone that you wish vengeance on. It is not someone that you're seeking emotional justice, because FYI, that does not exist. It is not any of those things. It is just someone you used to know. Because the reality is, at the end of the day, if you're divorcing someone and you've had children with them, you know them. You know them well. You know them well enough to have had a child with them. You cannot erase them from your past. And you can't erase them from your future either if you have children together. So, yeah, that's always the bomb that gets dropped. People are like, I can't wait until my kid's 18. Why? Because you still have college and marriages and grandbabies. Like, the clock doesn't stop at 18. But so it has to be someone that you used to know. And again, it's not about letting them escape culpability. Believe me, the people that put us in this position, they live their own karma. They live their own life. They will continue to live their own life and karma. I don't need to do anything with that.
Yeah.
I don't need to hold them responsible. What does that? And I can tell you what that does for me. So, like I said, love you, mean it, that you're like, oh, you look so young. What are your secrets? Honestly, it was this. Because people go to my Instagram, you can look back at I've done before and after transition photos. It was forgiving, taking control of my health and taking control of my life that led to the way I look now. I did not look this way a year ago. 2 years ago, certainly not. 3-4 years ago, I didn't. And it isn't about weight or facelifts or anything like that. It's the light. It's the light that comes back into your soul, into your face, into your eyes. And why would you want to give that away anyway? And when people are like, well, because they need to be held accountable, what, you're not judge, jury, and executioner. How are you holding them accountable? You think because you're mad at them and you talk crap about them on social media and you stand firm on principle that they're ever going to change? Yeah. Anybody that's listening to this that has ever had success with that, please email me. I want to know your secret.
They don't. What would you say to the individuals that are be like, well, Dr. Courtney, if you've let this go, why would you create a whole platform on it? Why would you write a book on it? Why not go and pursue something else? Why not just leave this in the past?
And that is a great question, one I have been asked many times.
Me too. So I always like to challenge coaches with that question.
It's a great question. And honestly, when I first started this business and I was asked that question, the response would be different than it is now, because it is definitely something that you need to sit with and own so that you can answer it effectively. When I first started my business, it was more of divorce coaching. So it was the process, the boots on the ground, the paperwork, that kind of thing. And it was exhausting me. It was keeping me stuck in that, spun up. These people are already in court. Like, they're already fighting with each other. Oh my gosh. And that was not, I didn't need a platform on that. I had already gone through the traumatic stuff. I didn't need to live in that space. And then that's when I rebranded and was like, you know what? I want to do recovery. I want to do mindset shifting. I want you to know that your happily ever after does exist. And it's not some princess in a ball gown. It's not some lasting husband who's going to come and save you from it. It's you. It's you who is responsible for your happily ever after. And now being able to sit in that space and know how to get there and then share all of the trauma, all of the mistakes, all of the skeletons that got me here with other people, it's my purpose. That is my purpose now.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So you said something, when we're talking about holding the person accountable and your nervous system literally being on fire, and the of us Southern country folks say, thank God I don't look like what I've been through. But there's a certain point in your life where you said you actually did look like what you were going through. You look, we get the bags, we get frazzled. We have this permanent Grinch looking thing about our faces. Yeah. I've been there. I completely understand what you're talking about. What would you say to a client that came to you when you could tell that their nervous system was on fire in that moment? They know that they need help, but they cannot figure out how to go from being, hey, I need to be pissed off every day because I need to feel this, to being uncaged. How would you approach someone like that?
I have several things that I do with clients to help them kind of break free from that. And a lot of it is because, hello, I'm an author. I've written since I was a child. I love it. So a lot of it is writing prompts and things like that. But I really have them, quite frankly, sit in their crap. Sit in it. Sit with it. Own it. Let it engulf you for a little bit, little by little, because we don't want to do that all at once because you'll blow your nervous system completely out of the water. but sit with it a little bit. Take ownership of the parts that you need to, and then we do release exercises to release the parts of it that you don't need to own anymore. And that was, so I'm kind of answering a question you asked a minute ago again and answering this one. That's a reason that I wrote this book, is because I put some of that in there, but I share that here's what happens if you don't do that. So for a long time, I didn't do that. And I was in complete fight or flight all the time. I had lab levels, cortisol, for anybody who's in healthcare, don't know what that is, was out of whack. I was diagnosed with 2 autoimmune disorders within 6 months of each other. I was drinking all the time. I was completely sick. And it hit me one day. I left my marriage for my child because I did not want my child to grow up like I did. I wanted to be a strong mom for him. I wanted to be a healthy mom for him. I wanted him to see what love looks like. I wanted all these really great things for him. And I sat there and said to myself, I left, I blew up my life, I did all of that. And now he comes to me and says, Mom, I want to go outside and play. And I'm like, I can't, I don't feel good. It was every day, I don't feel good. Every day I had a headache. I didn't want to get out of bed. I was sick. Something was going on. I was going to doctor's appointments. And it was like, this has to change. Whatever way, this has to change. And I started to realize that the toxicity that was surrounding me, I was holding so tightly to it that it was destroying me from the inside out. It wasn't destroying the people who did these things to me. It wasn't destroying the family court officials, the attorneys, the judges. It wasn't doing anything to them. The universe will do what the universe will do to them. But what I was doing was destroying me from the inside out. And I made the decision, I'm not doing this anymore. I left. I'm gonna be healthy. I'm gonna strive to live and be the healthiest mom, wife, woman, business owner that I can be. And it was a decision for me to say, you know what? I do have skeletons. Let me sit with those. Let me figure out my ownership and accountability here. And then I did an exercise, and I do have clients do this. There's a lot to it, so you can read the book, read about it, work with me, figure it out. But I literally sat down and wrote down every role, every title, every bad name I've ever been called on sticky notes. And I stuck them to my body, and I sat with it, and I cried. I'm talking ugly crying. And then I took them all off, and I ripped them all up. And I burnt some of them, and I let the ashes go away. And then I sat there and I wrote all the things I know to be true about myself on sticky notes, and I stuck them to myself. And I still have those all stuck together in a pile in my journal. And I look at them whenever I need to, because that's what I'm going to own. I'm no longer going to own and carry the roles and titles that other people have given me.
That's ceremonial, what you did. That's like a personal ode to yourself. It also sounds like in order for this to work, a human being has to have a certain level of self-awareness, because you said something. Oh, yes. You mentioned it twice, actually. You said, I own the things that I did. And that's hard. That is so difficult. Yeah. Because I think the people that become the high conflict personalities, they're the key ones that you and I do what we do. We do this because of those disordered personalities, or those yes. consummate high conflict people. But those are the ones that are not self-aware. So if somebody is dealing with this complete, like somebody that's constantly in victim mode, woe is me, the world owes me, everybody's done me wrong. How are you teaching your clients how to, I can't say peacefully coexist, because I don't know how are you teaching your clients to get those people out of their system?
Well, you're right. You can't peacefully coexist with some of those people. So people come to me all the time, because people post it. You see it all the time. You have to co-parent. You can't always co-parent. Like, that is just, it doesn't always work. Like, you can tell people that. I don't care. You can't. So when I have somebody who comes to me and they are dealing with a high conflict person, and I have dealt with that. I have dealt with the victim. Can only be a victim or a martyr. They can't be anything in between. I have.
They can't be, hey, I was wrong. They can't be that.
No way. that way. They get offended by the even mere mention of that. Or the people who are always like, I never said that, I never did that, those types of people when you have, binders full of yeah, you did. Here,
It's in,
let
you
me
texted to
screenshot
me,
those.
like you said it. I didn't say that right. So how are we
Yes,
dealing with those types that can literally make you crazy if you don't?
absolutely. That is where mindset training comes in. Boundaries. Everybody loves boundaries. And then parallel parenting. So if you have to parent with this person, it's a parallel parenting. So it's, and a lot of people, and I didn't coin the phrase of parallel parenting. Carl Knickerbocker, I think is his name. I can't remember
Yeah,
the
yeah.
exact last name.
Okay.
He's
Mhm.
on Amazon, but
Yeah.
he coined the phrase. But you see all these things online of these people. There's one that floats around all the time. It's a family on the side of a sporting event, and it's
Yeah.
mom, stepdad, dad, stepmom, and they've all
It's
got on
so
matching jerseys, and
cute. The
it's like
jerseys. It's so cute.
it's adorable, but it's not realistic for most people. And then if you feel like you have to achieve that, you're automatically setting yourself up for failure. So I tell clients all the time, look at it from a family adjacent standpoint. So many people come into a step family, a blended family, especially when you're dealing with a high conflict person. And we all have this, I want this picture perfect family. Doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in regular nuclear families. It doesn't exist in blended families. You have to come up with a family adjacent. What works? So I've even had clients go out and buy, those picture frames that have like 3 or 4 or 2 or whatever different openings in it. And it's like you can have the one you wanted. You can have the one that actually exists for you. And then you can have the one that exists for the kids because the kids have a whole different definition of what that looks like. So if we start to reframe what that perfect family looks like, holding your boundaries and being able to say, nope, not dealing with you because you're not bringing that toxicity into my life, owning what you can own, managing what you can manage. And I tell all parents, mind your own home, mind your own home. As long as the child is not in an abusive or neglectful situation, pick your battles and mind your own home. Meaning, mind your own business in case you didn't pick up on that.
That
Mind
is
your
so
own
hard to
home.
do. That is so
It
tough to
is.
do. There's something just piggybacking off of what you said. You said those expectations and people feeling really disappointed when they don't achieve this picture perfect step family scenario, the one that we all have seen on social media with the jerseys, like you mentioned. My firm belief is that we have to align our expectations with our reality. For a lot of us, our
Yes.
reality is that we do have a restraining order. So we'll never get a picture like that because, baby, you can't be within 500 feet of me. That's not going to happen. So I think aligning our expectations with our reality would save a lot. I do want to ask you though, because there's a piece in the book when I was just like, how in the heck do you make it through that? So your husband went to jail. Your
Yeah.
husband went to jail, and you know, I got to ask you 20 questions after this one, but what the heck? For those that haven't gotten the book yet, or theirs is on the way, how do you survive that type of manipulation of the system? So to see someone that was innocent get railroaded like that.
Barely. You barely survive it. So yes, there are multiple chapters in the book that speak to that. To short answer it, my husband's heart. That's how. People ask me all the time, how did you survive that? Why'd you stay? If you knew all this was going on years ago when you were dating, why did you get married? And the answer is the same no matter who asks the question, my husband's heart. Because at the end of the day, I know the love that man has for his children, the love that man has for me, the love that man has for the people in his life. That's a one of a kind thing. And I know everybody, said you love your spouse, even, lasting spouse, second spouse, third spouse. I don't care. I mean, if you married them, you probably love them. But for me, and you'll read a lot of this in the book, if you read about my childhood, my adolescence, my first marriage, I didn't have a lot of that, the unconditional, pure heart. And I have that with him. So, and to be frank, I knew the truth from the beginning. And if you read the book, you'll figure out how. But I knew the truth from the beginning. And for me, I don't know if you believe in universal synchronicities, enneagrams, things like that, but every single life purpose for me includes justice. Every single thing about me is intertwined with right and wrong and justice. And for me, it was, I'm not going to walk away from him because this is not, he doesn't deserve it. His kids don't deserve it. And this is not justice. This is not what should be happening. I have a voice and I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
So it's two things can be true. It was the justice piece, but it was his heart.
He's also just a great human being, and that's it. Yes. You know. So how do you navigate being, because you're a stepmom? How do you navigate being a stepmom in the midst of such thick toxicity that happened between both households?
It was like walking on a tightrope with a fire and sharks below me. It was very, very difficult. It basically what I said from day one, and if anyone was ever to speak to my stepchildren, they would tell you she said this constantly. But I'm not their mom, and I never tried to be. I was whatever they needed me to be. I let them define how they needed me to show up. And I mean, I'll be frank with you, it's changed over the years I've known them. They've needed more or less, or this capacity or that capacity. One of them is an adult in her own apartment, thriving. So, you know, it's definitely been a fluid situation. It changes with their needs. But I have always just tried to tell them, I'll show up how you need me to. And I have tried, I have failed more times than I can say, but I've always tried to, that's interesting. I'm sorry that happened. How can I help? Instead of adding to the toxicity and saying all the drama, all the tea, all the things. Now, both of them were put in the middle of this and not by anybody in my household. But so there were questions we had to answer. And I kind of just told them, I'm going to tell you from an age appropriate standpoint, the answers to your questions. Because for me, they were getting so many different stories. They were getting so many different lies. I was not going to take part in doing that same thing to them. And their father wasn't either. So age appropriate answers, and then just trying to be there as much as I could be. Funny story. There was a point in time where our attorney, which this will tell you that not all attorneys know everything in the world, like they try to act like they do. Our attorney suggested that I communicate with the co-parent instead.
Okay, so I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're fired, and give me somebody else, because you don't even know what you're dealing with here.
No, it was the worst few months I have ever. That honestly, I think, is what sent me over the edge with my nervous system, because it was awful. It was completely terrible. It was the worst advice ever. But when you're paying this person this much money, you're like, well, he told me to. So if we go to court and I'm not doing what he said, can I get in trouble for that? Like, what happened?
I don't want to look like I'm not complying. I don't want to look like I'm the difficult person and I'm making it so these people can't co-parent. So, and you know, one thing about the attorneys, the judges, they are not mental health experts. There have been so many people to refute that parental alienation is even a real thing. I can't believe there's people refuting that. But did you know that there's people out there that are like, it's not a real...
They call it pseudoscience.
It's a pseudoscience. Like, alienation is very much a real thing, but you know, so many of the people that are in charge of our legal processes are not even aware. They don't have to take classes on dealing with disordered personalities. They don't know a thing, not even a smidgen about mental illness. They can't even detect when somebody's lying. They can't even do that. So they can read the books. They can dish out orders and tell you huge fines to pay and take years away from your life. So that's a scary thing, the amount of power that these individuals have. I want to go back to something you said. Nervous system. There's a lot of women that listen to this podcast, and they come here, especially seeking this expertise, because of how much I go into delving into high conflict and the mental and the wellness part of all of that. But the nervous system being on fire, for me, you mentioned you had autoimmune, and I'm so glad you have you have a doctorate degree with a medical background in that. So, like, for me, the thing was recurring fibroids. Like, I was like, God, when we were in court 6 times a month and the lies are being told and the incidents of family violence and the alienation, like all of the things,
Yes.
I was constantly on fire. And for me, it matriculated in that form. But you
Yeah.
said you also dealt with autoimmune issues. What could women like me and you, like, you and I are on the other side of it now, but what would have somebody needed to have said to you while you were going through it so that you could have freed your nervous system so your body would not have broken down the way both of ours did?
What could somebody have said to me?
Yeah. Or done, or what tools could they have
Yeah.
given you?
Honestly, it's recognizing that your ex is not a bear. So I speak to that a lot on my platform in the book with my clients. Our nervous system, our bodies are absolutely phenomenal. The things that it can do. But at the end of the day, our nervous system, the sympathetic nervous response that you get when you see a spider, a snake, a bear, a fire, whatever you're afraid of, that, increased heart rate, the sweating, the headache that comes, the dizziness, the nausea, like whatever it manifests with you, your nervous system doesn't know a bear, a spider, a fire from your high conflict co-parent. It doesn't know the difference. So it views whoever you view as a threat as a threat. So when you get that ding ding on your phone and it's them, that you're scrolling and you see something to do with them on your social media, you get that email, you get subpoenaed. We all know what that feels like to get, the cop rolling up to your house and those types of things. It's pinging your nervous system every single time. So you're constantly staying in this fight or flight response with a little bit of your parasympathetic coming in and like rest and digest and calm, and then it's ping right back up again. So this constant roller coaster has your body just completely flipping inside out. So that manifests in autoimmune disorders, in anxiety. It can manifest in fibroids. It can manifest in,
Hair loss,
blood pressure
wrinkles,
problems.
cellulite.
Yeah. Digestive issues, IBS, like all, it just depends on you. Yes. It can definitely manifest in all different ways because stress can do really weird things to your body. So that's where I talk to clients about what are things we can put in place. So, because this person's not going away, we already talked about that. They're not going away. What are things we can put in place so that you're not getting triggered every single time? And sometimes that is blocking them on social media. One big thing I have clients do is if they're not using like our Family Wizard or some court ordered app, if they're just kind of navigating the minefield on their own, if they're doing like emails or whatever, is creating an email that is specific to your co-parenting dynamic. And then only check. So don't put that on your phone. Don't put that on your tablet. It's only on your computer. It's only on a personal laptop, whatever. And set times during the day or week that you're going to check it. And people always come to me and they're like, I can't do that. What if something happens with my child? Okay, if an emergency happens with your child, let's stop and think about this. Are you going to get an email? Or is the school going to call you? The ex is going to call you? Like, someone's going to call you. They're not going to email you if there's an emergency. So let's calm our ego back down a little bit. And I say ego from a fear standpoint. Let's calm that back down. Let's not use that as an excuse, because a lot of times our nervous system likes to keep us in a place of being familiar, even if it's chaos. So we'll make those excuses. Yeah, but I can't. Yes, you can. Especially the older your kids get. And when you set up that email, if you say, I'm going to check it Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m., at 5 o'clock, you need to be doing something for you. A bubble bath, a walk, yoga, eating a pint of ice cream. I don't care. Whatever it is, that is a self-care strategy for you. You need to do that. And then you need to check it in a safe space. And when I say a safe space, I mean not in your bedroom. Bedrooms should be your sanctuary. Don't check it in there. Check it in an office, maybe at the, kitchen counter, whatever. Check it. Here's the caveat. Don't respond immediately. Check it. Let the feelings come. Go do something else. Cook dinner, go for a walk, go take a bath, go take a shower, whatever you want to do, and then answer. A lot of people get in that mind frame of, oh my God, they messaged me, I have to answer right now or I'm going to get in trouble. No, you're not. you at least have 24 hours. No court is going to be like, you didn't respond for 24 hours. They're not going to do that. Take the time to practice the pause, sit with it. And then I work through some strategies that help them understand what requires a response and what doesn't. Because a lot of times we want to respond with, and I believe me, I've done it, that well-curated paragraph with citations because we know we're right and we're going to make them understand. No, you're not.
Write it, keep it in your drafts, and go on with your life.
Yes. And that is something that I'm working with clients. I have something I'm working on to help people with that. But practice the pause, write it out in a journal, do an audio message to your best friend. I don't care how you do it, but you do not need to send that to that person because you're giving them that energy and then they're going to respond back and then you're going to play tit for tat back and forth. Yeah. And then your nervous system is going to be a wreck. Does it require a response? And if it does, short and sweet. So there's a book, it's Biff. It's by Bill Eddy.
Yeah.
It is brief, informative, firm, but friendly. That works. It does, but you don't even really have to be friendly. It's a business transaction.
Because the last F and Biff for me is way different than friendly. I'm not going to say it here. But...
Me too.
Yeah.
We all know. We all know. Yeah, if you know, you know. We know. Yeah. So, brief, but I don't even say...
Right.
Yeah, but it's a business transaction. That's it. Because now you are managing the business of your children, and that's it. You don't need to put the heart into it, the soul, the consequences, the whys, let me make you understand. You're not the secretary anymore. You're not any of this stuff. It's a business transaction for the business of your children. And the more you can do that and you start cutting that contact, you start putting those boundaries in place, sit at a different place when you go to sporting events, don't go to their social media, don't stalk them, don't stalk their new partners, things like that. You start to let your nervous system heal. And as that starts to happen, it opens your heart for that forgiveness that you need to find. If you're constantly staying in a spun up trigger state, you're never going to be able to find it. It's like clouded off. It's blocked off from you.
Gosh, you are an incredibly healed human being. And in the book, you do speak about some of your own experiences in childhood, some of the traumas that you yourself suffered and survived and are now thriving. How did becoming a stepmother trigger some of your own healed or unhealed childhood trauma?
It triggered more unhealed, let me tell you that. So my mother was a stepmother when I was growing up. I don't ever know how to say this, so guys, forgive me here. I have a brother, but he passed away in 2019. So I never know if I'm supposed to say have or had, but he was my half brother. So my mother was a stepmother, and most of the fights that happened in my household. So my parents, just a little backstory in case you haven't gotten your book yet, they stayed together for the kid, me being the kid that never got a choice in the matter. So I watched a lot of conflict and contention. I actually dealt with all the time. And I actually dealt with parental alienation while my parents were still married. Like my mom tried to make me hate my dad while they were still married. So when people say parental alienation doesn't exist, yes, it does. Sit all the way down. Yes. But so my mom had such a deep embedded hatred of my brother. And it was a lot of factors that played into it. As kids sometimes do as they're teenagers, they choose the fun house.
This was your father's biological child that he came into the relationship with. Okay.
Yes. Yep. And I mean, to me, when I was a child, he was my Bubba. Like that was it. He wasn't half, not half. I didn't understand the step parent dynamic. None of my friends had step parents. He's Mom, why do you hate Bubba? Like, why? I don't understand.
And you could see that she was fitting into this evil stepmom trope. You could see that mom did not like Bubba. She treated Bubba way different than she treated the Hours baby, which you were the Hours baby.
Yes.
You saw it.
I did. I was 6, 5, something like that. When my mom told my dad, you're either going to choose our child or yours. If you choose yours, you're going to get out. Yeah. Then my dad basically looked at my mom and said, you can take her. Okay, thanks. Great. So I can laugh about this stuff now, but I mean, obviously it was.
So was mom just going through a bad point in life, or was mom just toxic?
Option B.
Okay.
Mom was just. Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
mom is a very unhealed person.
Damn. And the
Yeah.
thing that sucks is when you have an unhealed mother and you grew up in that toxicity and that chaos, and then you marry somebody who has the same traits
Oh
as your
yeah.
mom. It either forces you're going to crumble, or it forces you to heal,
Yes.
because you're
That's
like, I'm
exactly
not
what
going to
it
survive.
did. Yeah.
So clearly some of your own unhealed stuff was drudged back up.
Oh, 100%, 100%. So yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. My brother, he chose the fun house. He chose his mom's house a lot. And I know that that was some resentment feelings for my mom. And, as he got an older, there was an 11-year age difference between me and him. So as he got older, he didn't always make the best choices. He had to go to rehab. There were lots of things that went on with him. And it was just, those were things that were unacceptable in my mom's house. Like, you had a curfew, you weren't coming and going. Like, she was very, very strict, very rigid. And my brother couldn't stand that because he had the free and easy lifestyle at his other house. But mom used a lot of his missteps against him, in terms of, that's why I don't want him here. I don't want him around Courtney, things like that. And it was like, he's making mistakes. Like, he's still my hero. He's still my big brother. Like, I don't care about the things that he did or didn't do as an adult. I'm 11 years younger than him. I just think he's super cool. Like, but
Well,
I'm
let me ask you
watching.
something. Wait a minute,
Yeah.
Courtney. Because we have a lot of stepmoms that are so concerned that, oh, I'm scared that my husband's kid is going to be a bad influence on my child, because, like you said, your big brother was coming home late. He was doing things that were not allowed in your household, or just not safe. Could he have? Was your mom substantiated in her fears that your big brother might have influenced you negatively?
Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. I was too now and I'm answering that for me. If you've
Yeah.
got stepkids who are super close in age ranges, do I think that that can happen? Absolutely. But for me, with an 11-year age difference, I mean, you're talking, he's old enough to drink and I'm in middle school. Like,
Yeah.
no, none of that, none of anything he did ever. And if it did influence me, it influenced me in the, I'm not going to choose that path, because I saw how hard it was for him. But my mom, being the unhealed person she was, never really saw it that way. And my mom is the type of person where she sets very unrealistic boundaries, or unrealistic goals for you, expectations. And if you don't meet them, that's your problem. Like, you're just not good enough if you don't
You're
meet them. And
automatically out.
yeah.
You're out.
And my brother was always the type of person that he wasn't going to adhere to anybody's expectations.
He lived by the beat of his own drum. Were you two
He
ever able
did.
to, before he left this physical experience, were you able to heal your relationship? Or, I don't know if it needed healing, but were you cool before he left here?
Yes. Yes. We didn't need to heal it. He was always my hero, my protector. I knew things about him and the way he handled things from him. I never listened to my family, my mom. He was very open with me and would admit a lot of things to me and tell me a lot of things, which then lent to me being the middleman between him and my family all the time. But we didn't need to heal. The reality of it is I disconnected from him because my first husband did not want him in the picture because of his past. So I had disconnected from him some, but luckily in the last couple of years we were able to reconnect. I was talking to him pretty regularly, and so
That's
that was
beautiful.
something I needed for sure. But I think that watching that dynamic, so in my first marriage with my own child, when we started having fights where my son was listening and hearing some of these things and he was repeating things back to my mother, it was like, oh God, I'm living the life of my mother. No,
Oh.
just no. I'm not doing this. And that is what helped me make the decision to leave, because I was not going to allow my child to be like, well, I'm so glad my parents stayed together for me. No,
You're
he
seeing some
he
very familiar, uncomfortable patterns start to reappear. And you're like, I'm
yes.
not doing this.
No.
Gosh.
No.
How does the relationship with your dad stand? Since mom, did the stuff and said the stuff. She was going through what she was going through. But how does it work with dad now?
I'll answer the now part in a second. How it worked for a lot of years was my father would tell me, I got to be married to her, so you're going to have to figure it out. There was not a lot of assistance when it came to arguments and issues with her. So we had a very disjointed relationship. I would almost say it was quite non existent other than birthdays and holidays, and they don't live that far from me. So, but now, unfortunately, he has dementia. So there's not a lot of room for past conversations in terms of what he will remember and understand. Honestly, I think the dementia started when my brother died.
Yeah.
So, it's over the last 6 years, it has progressively gotten worse.
Yeah. Wait, are he and
So
mom
there's
still together?
my mom and dad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, they separate. They're still together.
No, my mom and dad are still very much together.
Oh, okay. So she's caretaker now, and both of their lives
Yeah.
have changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. And basically at this point, they've both just kind of
Relented to
resigned.
finishing
Yeah.
this out, to resign to saying we're going to finish this out
Yeah.
together,
They
because what
don't
else
really
are we
have
going
any
to do?
other choices. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
I mean, they don't
no.
they don't talk a lot. They don't get along. We live in the same house, but I mean, they don't get along at all. I think the final nail in that coffin, to be frank with you, was when my brother died.
Yeah.
My mom was callous about the whole thing. She didn't come to the
Ooh.
funeral. She laughed the day she called me and told me about it because I cried. She laughed at me about it and then didn't has not spoken to me about him until, actually, oddly enough, his birthday back in December. I posted a memorial post about him, and she messaged me and said, "Did you by chance put up a birthday or a date of death about your grandparents?" And I was like, "No, mom, sure didn't." And she was like, "Well, but you could do it for him." Yeah.
The amount of, now that's hatred. The
Mm,
amount of disdain and hatred. It's almost, if there was a silver lining, at least your dad doesn't have to have these last few years of his life with the full knowledge that he's living with a person that almost celebrates his baby's demise. Like,
yeah.
dear
Yeah.
God.
I don't
Yeah,
care how much you don't like your
you don't
stepkids. You
do
don't do
that. You
that.
don't,
No.
because this is your spouse's heart. Our kids are literally pieces of our heart. And
Yeah.
let's not get off into that. That's probably, we'll put a pin in that because we got to come. I'm going to do a series
Episode
on,
2.
yeah, we're gonna have to come back to that. So before we end this, because I really feel like I could talk to you. We're probably gonna have to have Dr. Courtney back here, guys. Let me know in the comments what y'all think. I think you're gonna love her. But you are working on something huge, and the I Know I'm Crazy with Naja Hall audience gets the first dibs on Dr. Courtney's big announcement. Give us the tea, spill it.
Yay, I'm so excited. So there will be more details to come. It's not completely ironed out, but I'm super excited that in the next couple of months, I'm going to be offering a ghostwriting service with a twist. So if you don't know what ghostwriting is, it's where you have someone who is a third party and seamlessly takes care of the communication between high conflict co-parents. But my twist is I'm going to do a ghostwriting boot camp where I will do some of that, but in doing that, we're going to walk the path together and I'm going to teach people how to be their very own ghostwriters.
That is so needed because then instead of saying, "Listen here, you ugly dumb bitch," you're gonna Dr. Courtney's gonna say, "Well, maybe don't say that exactly."
Let's not do that.
That is
A judge is not going to want to read that out loud.
probably, if they're gonna read that in front of you in court, you're gonna have to stand and say, "Yeah, I said it." That's so
Yeah.
amazing. So listen, when she does officially offer the service, guys, I will be posting it all over the socials. So you'll see you guys follow me everywhere, so you will see the updates. I'm excited to see that. I
I'm
can't wait to
excited to
test
do
you
it.
out. I can't wait to test out that service because I got some pending emails that definitely need Dr. Courtney's touch.
Yeah, it takes a special hand, but like we said, this doesn't end at 18. The communication doesn't end at 18. And I know if you've been through family court and you have any kind of split households, you're already spending your money in tons of places. You don't need to pay a ghostwriter for years and years on end. Learn it yourself. The best way to do it is to learn it yourself.
DIY. Do it your
Yeah.
damn self. DIY.
DIY.
Yeah.
DIYS.
So I had a website called Do It Your Damn Self like 11 years ago. But then I got sick of doing arts and crafts, so I just let it go defunct. But so everybody that comes on I Know I'm Crazy with Naja Hall, Dr. Courtney, and I should have prepped you for this, but I forgot, has to tell us why, because I know I'm crazy. Y'all out there listening or watching, you know you're crazy. Dr. Courtney, tell us why you know you're crazy.
I got myself wrapped up into this entire family court situation.
That's pretty crazy because you knew what was going on and you stayed. That was insane in the membrane.
It was. So that was an easy one. I didn't need prepping for that.
You didn't need prep. So, Dr. Courtney, tell everybody where they can find you. And of course, all of her links will be shared below. But how can we connect with you so that we can stay in touch?
Yes, absolutely. So you can come to my website. It's drcourtney.me. You can find me on Instagram at drcourt_everafter. So my coaching business is Ever After Coaching LLC. I do have a TikTok. Don't post much on it, but it's the same, drcourt_everafter. And then you can buy the book on Amazon. The paperback came out today, so that's super exciting. By the time y'all hear this, everything will be out, and it will also be at barnesandnoble.com.
Yes. All right, everybody. So listen, share this episode with your friends. I need you to, wherever you're listening or watching, can you please make sure you subscribe, share, and like, and leave me a review. Reviews are great for engagement. They help they push the algorithm to show this content to people that need it. So please leave us an Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Leave a review somewhere. I would greatly appreciate it. I am Coach Naja Hall. This is the I Know I'm Crazy podcast. I'll see you guys on Podcast Tuesdays everywhere you get your podcasts.
I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy.